This is the reason why you should buy. And we're not asking the most important question, the reason why it was important for them, in their heart of hearts. Like, that's a sale. Then we're going to see results, the mindset, going into every opportunity, saying to yourself, I would love to have the business, but I don't need the business. When they talk about building their organization just through referral, that means they're missing it. We're selling the experience. We're selling the reason why it's important to your prospect. The internet almost shut down because they're like, are you blind? Do you not know what's going on out there? Do you not see what's happening?
You just did 250,000 cold calls. Congratulations.
We're on, Victor Antonio. Thank you for joining the Pipe Podcast.
I was grooving to that song, man. I was like, dun, 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 dun.
Yeah. I love it. Hey, thanks for being my guest today on the Pipe Podcast. It means a lot. Thank you, Victor. If you're just
Chris, I just gotta say Crispin Cruz. I just like saying your name, man. Crispin.
I love it. So if you're new to the Pipe, we talk about sales process, initiatives, prospecting, and experiences. So we're on with Victor Antonio today. Again, thank you for being on. Hey,
and we're going to talk about how to make money. Come on, Chris, but throw that in there.
Let's do this.
Throw that in there. Just
I love it. So let's jump right into it. I'd like to, just for our listening audience, tell us a little bit about Victor Antonio, how you serve your clients, things that you do out there in the sales world today.
All right. So my background, my family's originally from Puerto Rico. I'll give you the fast story. Born and raised in Chicago. Mom said, go to school, get the education, get the job, have a bachelor's degree, electrical engineering, MBA. People are usually shocked by that when they find that out, that I'm actually started out as an engineer. Eventually moved into sales. Why? Because I really wanted to make money off my designs when I was doing designs and programming. And love sales. One day, May 9th, 2001, 3:48 p.m., decided to go solo, decided to write some books. I've written 14 books on sales and motivation. I really like the psychology of buying. I really like I'm a fan of Ayn Rand. Ayn Rand, the philosopher of objectivism, said that the true essence of capitalism is value for value, right? And I've always loved that phrase, value for value. If I give you value, I expect value in return. That's pure capitalism. And so I don't, when people say use the word serve, I'm that guy to go. I just kind of cringe when I hear that, Chris. But I got to be honest.
Yeah, that's okay.
But I love the value for value. If I give you value, then give me that. I expect value in return. And every relationship, whether it's friendship, marriage, or business, should be based on a value for value equation.
I love it. And I talk about with our clients also that adult to adult relationship, right? Mm-hmm. And because if it's adult child, there's an issue. There's an issue.
That's another way of looking at it. Yeah, it's a good way of looking at it, actually. I like that.
And so, a lot along the same lines as you're talking about today, value for value. I love that.
Right.
Thank you for sharing.
It's almost like peer-to-peer, right? Peer-to-peer. We have a peer-to-peer relationship. We can respect each other. We benefit from each other. Then we definitely want to be in that relationship.
That's right. So, hey, I wanted to explore a little bit today, finding the why and how people buy. I've seen that, I see it on your website. I've seen, a couple other podcasts, some things, some documents or some things about that as you explore that, with clients and others. Would you mind talking a little bit about that this morning?
No, don't mind talking about it at all, Crispin. Why not? That's why I'm here. Hey, so, back, I don't know what year it was, Crispin, but I think it was like 2005 or 6. I'm on my way to Salt Lake City, Utah. I go to the bookstore because I'm bored at the airport. I see this book by Dr. Robert Cialdini called Influence, right? I go, what is this? I keep seeing this book. Let me just finally read it. So I read the book Influence, and it really looked at how, how do you influence people, indirectly? And there's 6 levers or 6 mechanisms in there. And I remember reading that book. It was really about psychology, decision-making process, a lot of kind of behavioral economics as well. Mm-hmm. And I said, what if I took that and applied it to sales? And that's why I came up, obviously, with the sales influence. Defining the why and how people buy is really understanding how do people make a buying decision. Now, around that time, I started realizing that even before books like The Challenger came out, which talked about the buyers are 57% into the buyer journey, all these things about, we now know that the buyer is more informed. Before that was even popular, I already knew, because the internet had shifted everything. Pre-internet, we, the salespeople, had all the information.
Right.
Post-internet, now the buyers have the information, so they're not easily swayed by your opinion because they have their own. And so that was really the foundation of sales influence.
Mm-hmm. And so when you talk about sales influence and staying in control of your prospects, staying in control of the selling event, what does that look like in your world, Victor?
I say staying in control.
Yeah.
I don't think you are in control.
Yeah.
The thing is, if you think about it today, there was a study that was done by Google that says customers look for 10 sources of information before they actually reach out and contact you, right? So think about it. That number is probably bigger than that. So if the customer's now on their own value journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this has been the conflict that we've been having over the last 5-10 years. The debate is that we have a seller's process, how we want to sell, but the buyer has their own journey, and never the twain shall be, right? Two ships passing in the night. And so what happens is that you have to figure out marketing. To me, let me just take a step back. I used to laugh at marketing, like, ha, 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 you guys don't do anything. I remember that John Wanamaker line, 50% of my marketing works. I just don't know which 50%, right? Because marketing, they just create cheesy material, blah, blah, blah. That was perception of marketing. But now I have to admit, I have to tap out, so to speak, and say that marketing is now in the pole position of sales. Now I say that's almost like blasphemy, probably even on this podcast, right?
Right.
But think about it. Before customers reach out, they're finding content online, and who's putting that content out there? Mostly marketing. And so that's changed. The rise of the sales brand ambassador is something interesting that most people don't talk about, which is, I'm not only looking at the company, but maybe I can connect with salespeople, subject matter experts online who've posted great information, talk about a specific topic. And now I said, wait a minute, who does this guy work for? Okay, maybe I want to talk to this person. So you're seeing marketing be very powerful, the rise of the sales brand ambassador. So there is no staying in control. It's almost like just trying to figure out where they're surfing, and you're just trying to meet them there.
Okay. And then how about when you're actually engaging with a prospect? So now you've got a prospect that you're talking with, you're actually engaging with them. They're asking you about, hey, Victor, you offer, X service, Y service, Z service. What happens in, what are the most interesting, conversations, or how do you make that happen as you're trying to influence that sale from A to Z?
Okay, so let's really walk through this, right? So the customer has gone on a buyer journey. Now we finally connected. Let's say it's an inbound call, right? And again, we can do outbound, but we know the numbers are just fatal in outbound. Now, before people scream at me on this, on the line, are you saying outbound's not important? That's not what I said. That's not what I said. I'm just saying most of the stuff is going to be inbound, because guess what? Customers are finding us. And when they're finding us for the first time, Crispin, one of the first questions I like to ask is, how much research have you done? Like, what do you know? I need to understand the level of where this customer's at. And I like to categorize them in 3 very complicated categories. Here they are, 3 complicated categories: some, none, ton, right? Ooh. So let's go through it. When I ask them, how much research have you done? They go, none. That's not good, right? That means I'm getting them cold. That means that there's some education that has to go on. If they've done some research, I'm like, okay, so let's dig into what you've learned so far, and then I can just go from there, because I'm being very respectful. You've done some research, things already. I don't want to repeat myself. Tell me what you found. If they've done a ton of research, love these people. I want to hug them and kiss them virtually, because if they've done a ton of research, they basically pre-qualified themselves. They've done the research. They know the price points. They know what they're looking for. Their preferences have been formed in terms of what they want, and they still reached out to talk to me. That means I love that type. So usually when they've done a ton of research, I love them. If they've done no research, I hate them. If there's somewhere in the middle, they've done some, my job is to move them towards knowing more. So it's almost like a Gaussian distribution. 20, 60, 20 is what you're going to get. And 20% know everything, 20% know nothing. But the 60% in the middle, that movable middle, is what we got to work with. But again, I meet them where they're at. What do you know? How much do you know? And then now my job is to position myself as a subject matter expert to give them the guidance that they need.
Right. Jeez. I mean, that's great. That is just great. I love it. And when you talk about moving that middle, because See, the foundation of how we serve our clients at Sales Arbiter, we foundationally use DISC. We use DISC a lot, and we've weaponized DISC in a way. And the
You've
psychology
weaponized it. I've never heard that phrase, dude. You've weaponized. We've weaponized DISC. We've weaponized it. Yeah, I mean that's very antagonistic towards the buyer relationship, don't you think? You can't serve and then weaponize something. I mean, I'm just saying, the contradiction in there somewhere.
I love it. So we really look at and try to understand what is the buyer's behavior type,
right?
And then we look at that in a way, and then try to mirror that. We try to and very very much engage with them at a high level, and meet them where they are, which is really important for us. So it's that psychology of sales that you talk about is very interesting.
I mean, if you look at personalities, right? So I've come up with my own acronym just because I want to be different from this.
You are different.
Yeah, I am. And so mine is SAD, SAAD, SAD, right? So here's what it stands for, because I think it's easy to memorize. The first one is the person's very social. If the person's very social, I found that this type of person never really makes a decision. They just talk a lot. And you can tell a social person by they're always changing directions of the conversation. So that's usually a kind of an indicator. Maybe not. I don't want to talk to them. Then there's the amiable one. That's the first A. Amiable is the person that is very curious, has a lot of questions that need to be answered. And they're very methodical, and they're looking to you to see how you respond to those questions. My wife is an amiable buyer. She will ask very thoughtful questions, and how you respond, not only in content, but in context. How you respond will determine whether she wants to buy from you or not, right? That's that trust factor. Then there's something that lines up with DISC, I bet, is the second A is the analytical person, right? This is the person who just wants it straight down the pipe. I got questions, answer them. You position yourself as a subject matter expert, boom, this person will buy from you. If it's D, I call that person the dominating Dan or Danny. Dominating Dan just wants to dominate. They're the know-it-alls. And the best way to deal with a dominating person is to ask them a lot of questions to uncover what they know. But more importantly, if you can destabilize their confidence by asking them questions that they haven't thought about, then that's how you would position yourself as a subject matter expert. So in a nutshell, if the person's sociable, that means we really need to qualify to make sure they're even interested in buying. If they're amiable, then we just try to really be patient and slow down the sale and really answer the questions thoughtfully. If they're analytical, they're data-driven. Chill on the humor, chill on the sarcasm, give them the information, and then again, it's an A-B decision. The dominating person, you control that conversation by asking a lot of great questions and letting them think that they're actually leading them. But in no case do you actually control the conversation. Your job is to kind of figure out who you're dealing with and then try to manage that relationship. But if I can put the common denominator under all four profile types, is you got to know your product and service and how it's going to help them.
Yeah. We had a question come up from our friend Dan Jordan. He said, how do you make a good impression selling on a Zoom call when you're not as good looking as Victor? I think you've got a fan there.
Dude, bro, just shave your head, Dan. Just shave your head. Let's begin with that. You just shave your head. You go out, you get a little tan, and just let the magic work. That's all it is, man. That's all the effort that's required. But it's interesting because when you talk about first impressions on Zoom calls, it's a really important question. I just had a conversation yesterday with a gentleman, and it was immediate from my first impression of their Zoom, like this right here, the box, this look, that I was not impressed. No good lighting, right? Wasn't dressed well, looked a bit disheveled. And I'm thinking, okay, this is not a good first impression. And I try to ask myself, why aren't people self-aware of what this first impression really means? For example, everybody on the Zoom call, I can't tell you, you've done enough of these podcasts, Crispin, where you're probably stunned at the fact that the person doesn't have a decent microphone. We're talking $100, $150 microphone. They don't even have a decent camera. I'm not talking about high-end camera. Just get a Logitech 420 little HD webcam to kind of make you look good. Good. Another $200 investment. Buy 3 ring lights or whatever it may be. $200-$300. For $500, you can look like a superstar. But yet, a lot of people don't even invest in that. So again, if you're going to have calls, come on, look good.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was my side rant based on Jordan. I get irritated when people get on a call and they don't have their screen stuff together. I had to censor myself on that one. They don't have their screen stuff together. You're like, come on, man.
All right. I'm so glad that Dan got you jazzed up this morning. All right. So, what about when you're on a conference call? Like if you're not on a Zoom, how do you make a good impact, on a conference call? How do you sound, how do you sound like you're put together? How do you, the question set, the tonality, like those types of things, Victor?
I do a lot of presentations, obviously live as well.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've noticed is that there's people who just walk into a room, even a Zoom room or a StreamYard room, and they own it.
Mm-hmm.
They know where they're going with the conversation. This is not a question, and people can feel that. Do you know what I mean? People can feel whether you're going to hesitate or not. Like Chris, when you ask me a question, if I go, that might be, well, here's what we would do. You hear that? You're like, this idiot doesn't know what he's talking about, right?
Right.
Well, when I do conference calls, I know where I'm going. I know I know who's in the room typically. I know what questions I'm going to ask. I know what they want. And if I don't know that, I shouldn't be on the call in the first place. I know when I'm done with that call, I know what my landing is. I always talk about stick the landing. Stick the landing means I know what my call to action is at the end. I either want to close it or advance it. Take your pick, unless I'm just there for a relationship. So when I look at conference calls or Zoom calls, it's like, why are we on this call?
Mm-hmm.
And I get a lot of inbound, right? So I get a lot of inbound. In my business, people say, Victor, I want to hire you to come do a keynote speech at some large event, right?
Mm-hmm.
Great. Tell me about the event. And then I start drilling for questions, right? And I'm trying to figure out what is it that they want. I'm not even focused on price because I know I'm worth it already. So in my mind, price is not an objection. It's whether I really want to do this and whether I can really help you. And then I have to show you and demonstrate that I can do this.
It's great. It's great. And so many people, and in our world of sales, they get hung up on price. They get hung up on price. Yeah. Price is always going to be part of the conversation. I'm concerned about that. We're not priced properly in the market. I
hear that so much. It's funny. It's I work with Grant Cardone, right? And I remember one day we did a 3-day boot camp. And of all the things he said, my favorite phrase that he has, I wish it was mine, but it's not. He said, always lean in the direction of the objection. Love that phrase. Love that. If you think about that, whatever objection you think the customer has, you lean in that direction.
Yeah.
You're more expensive. Of course we are. Let me explain why. Right? It's whatever the objection is, that's exactly, you lean right into it. And I think if salespeople just learn that one tip on how to really lean into an objection, especially on pricing, it wouldn't be an objection. The thing is, you hesitate on price, so the customer senses it. You're all timid about presenting your price because you don't know how to sell your value, and you really suck at it. And that's usually what I tell people. If you're not good at positioning it, of course you're going to hesitate, and the customers can smell hesitation.
That's right. They can smell blood in the water. The sharks smell blood in the water.
And all these little qualifications, like maybe, I think we can do that. Yeah, well, this is like throwing chum in the water for the sharks to come up and ask for a discount.
It's just gold. It's just gold. I mean, I hope everybody's listening to this because I'm telling you, it's absolute gold. In Grant Cardone's sake, it's probably platinum. But but yes.
It's 10x. That's 10x, baby. 10x.
That's 10x, baby. 10x. That's right. So, what are here's one of the questions I had for you today, Victor, because I'm excited to hear your thoughts around this. What are 3 things organizations should be doing in this coming year to be successful? What do you believe that 3 things that they need to be doing to either grow their business or just be effective in the market?
Well, I have this grid, right, that I talk about. And it'll answer this question specifically. So I'll give you 4. There's only 4 ways to grow your business. 4, cuatro. That's it. No more, no más.
Cuatro. I love it.
Yeah. And so the first one is to gain new clients. And we can all agree that gaining new clients in the market today may or may not be, depending on what business you're in, could be easier or harder. But gaining is the first strategy. How do we gain new clients? So in other words, what marketing strategies can I deploy? What outreach programs could I deploy to gain new clients? Okay. So that's just the what. How you would do it depends on you. I personally think that more companies need to do more marketing about their products, their service, and position of value. I'm not talking about doing more commercials. I'm talking about showing people the value, whether it's through video, podcast, interviews, whatever it is. Get out there more so your brand is more noticeable. Again, people are searching online for content. That's the first strategy. Strategy number 2 is retention. If you can hold on to 5% of your clients, just 5%, that could drop down to your bottom line, 70 to 80% profit margin. Think about that. If I could hold on to 5% of my clients, that could impact my profit margin, obviously depending on your cost structure, by 80%, let's say. Right there, you should be thinking, how do I hold on to my existing customers? So again, implement retention strategies. Number 3, wrote a book around the third one, which is mastering the upsell. How do you grow your existing customer base? The data point I gave on that in the book that really, really highlights this is that by selling to your existing customers, Crispin, you can increase your sales by 30%. Think about that. Just pause your brain. Think about that one. That if I focus just on my existing customers, I can increase my sales by 30%. But not just that, I can also reduce my cost of sales because I've already acquired the client, which means I can also shorten my sales cycle. Why? Because I've already acquired the client. Strategy number 4, and that is re-engage. People who stop buying from you, how do we re-engage them? What's our re-engagement plan? So 4 strategies. How do I get out there and get new clients? Maybe more marketing strategies, whatever it may be. Retention strategy number 2, upsell strategy number 3, re-engagement strategy would be number 4.
That's awesome. That's just great. So Mark Fonseca comes in today and he asks, what about customer retention? Do you think retention is the new acquisition?
First of all, Mark Fonseca makes the best suits in the world.
Are you kidding me? I mean,
Mark Fonseca has suited me up several times for the big stage. So big shout out to my man. By the way, that is a great question. Do you think retention is the new acquisition? And the answer is yes, because holding on to your existing clients, and again, not only think of retention and then upselling. Those two together, you can drive your business. Look, this is the Pareto principle in disguise, the 80-20 rule, right? 20% buy 80% of your product, right? So why not focus on the people who are buying? It's amazing how we want to go out and acquire new clients, but the obvious acres of diamonds is right around us, all around us. All these little diamonds are all around that we can pick up if we just go back. So I would agree with 100%. I like the way he put it, by the way. That's a great phrase, by the way.
I do too. Now, we've got listeners from every stage in their selling career, and we've probably got some millennials out there that don't know the story of acres of diamonds. Do you mind sharing that one, Victor?
Oh man, it's a long story. So, okay, it's in the book, Mastering the Upsell. Crispin, I'll send you a copy of the book, and you can send it out to your distribution list, and the whole story is there. But here's the Acres of Diamond story, in a nutshell. Give you the Victor version. I should come up with like a hood version of this thing. Anyway, that'd be even better. That'd be even
little
better.
Pictures, like
a little hood version. So anyway. The story takes place in Africa. In Africa, there's Mastering the Upsell. The story takes place in Africa, and there's a farmer who owns a farm, right? He's happy on the farm, doing well. He's got a family. Now, along comes this guy named Al Hafid. Al Hafid starts telling him about these diamonds that are being found in these mines in Africa, and he starts getting into the actual farmers. He said, look, man, if you were to just find 1 diamond, you would be rich beyond belief. If you find 2 diamonds, that's like generational wealth. So he hypes up the farmer, right? And the farmer says, I'm going. And again, takes off, sells his farm, and goes off to find these diamonds, right? You know the story. It's a Greek tragedy. In the end, loses money, dies, keels over, whatever it may be, throws himself off a cliff, whatever, right? Meanwhile, back at the farm, there's a new owner, right? So some time passes. Al Hafid decides to stop by the farm. Stops by the farm, is talking to the farmer, and then he notices in the living room on the mantle there's a black rock. And Al Hafid starts telling this new farmer, dude, that's a diamond. Dude, that's a diamond. The farmer's like, it's not a diamond. It's a black rock. It's a nice, shiny black rock. He said, no, that's a diamond in raw form. Where did you find it? The farmer says, the new owner says, well, I found it in the back. We got a creek back there, and there's a bunch of them strewn about. Right. In other words, there were diamonds all over the place, but because the first farmer didn't know what a diamond looked like, didn't recognize what a diamond looked like, didn't realize that there was value in his backyard, acres of diamonds. So there was acres of diamonds behind in the backyard by the creek. He didn't know that because he didn't know what to look for. And I use that as a premise in the upselling book, because upselling to me is like acres of diamonds. If we went back and started mining our existing clients, we go to the backyard by the creek, we're going to realize there's a lot of deals we could pick up. I mean, think about this. If on average, and I'm making this number up, so there's no hard number here, but if on average we agreed that you can upsell 30% of whatever you sold them initially. So if you sold them a $100,000 deal, 30% of that would be $30,000. So that means I can potentially get $30,000, 30% from my customers. I start adding these customers up, my 20% who are buying 80%, I can generate serious revenue. But again, the cost structure to the actual corporation is beautiful because there is no real cost of sales in this situation, or at least a minimal cost of sale.
There you go. There you go. I love it. That's a great story. And I'm glad you shared it. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
You don't know what could be right in your backyard. You're not mining your own business. No pun intended, of course.
By the way, if you look at an Amazon, for example, because there's so many in the book, I talk about so many different ways you can upsell your clients. And I give different strategies. By the way, mastering the upsell, I did research. There was only one other book that was written like 20 years ago. Other than that, nobody's touched the subject. Wow. And I think one study showed that less than 14% of the people, actually 14% of salespeople actually use an upselling strategy, which is a mind blower because it's like right there. So all this information is there. And if you were just to learn how to upsell, the book is very tactical. Here's how you do it. Here's how you bring it up. Here's what you say. Here's different ways you can present pricing to get them to buy more. By the way, the pricing strategies in the book for upselling, amazing. And not because I wrote it. It's just simply amazing. Good stuff that I've dug up.
That's great. That's great. So I'd like to go back to a little bit more on your career. And was there a time, Victor, that you were just, you were so excited about an opportunity that you won, a presentation you were doing? Like, what is there one that just kind of sticks out for you?
Oh, yeah. By the way, so we used to do four-legged calls, right? So I was an engineer. Right. So I was with a company. It was called E.F. Johnson up in Minnesota. Yeah, for sure. You bet. Right? And so
I heard the accent earlier when you were talking about it.
So I was the design engineer for a wireless system. We were, I think it was Iowa State Power and Gas. Now, I'm not making this up because I'm giving you names. Right. So the salesperson on the account was a guy named Ken Cook. And then I remember it took me about a month or two to design this wireless system. I think it was like 26 sites. When I say design a wireless system, I had to find they gave me the location. So I had to say, okay, here's a tower this tall, what type of antenna, what type of transmitter, cables. I mean, fully load this thing, right?
Yeah.
And it was a $5 million system, I think, by the time we got done with quoting it. And I remember we were bidding on this thing and we won the deal. I remember Ken called me out, the sales guy, dude, we won the deal, Victor. Victor, we won the deal. Victor, we won the deal. To which I was like, yeah. And he takes me out to lunch, make a long story short, steak, beer, the whole bit. And I was happy until this senior engineer, when I got back to the office, this senior engineer by the name of Roy Cole said to me, dude, why are you so happy? I said, man, we won this big deal, $5 million. And I said, Ken just took me out to lunch. It was great. And he said, how much did he spend on you? About $50. I said, man, so I'm super happy. And then he asked me the question. I said, well, how much do you think Ken just made off of your system design? Oh. And I was like, well, I don't know. I don't know. And he says, well, by my estimates, he probably made about $50,000. Hope you enjoyed your lunch. And he walked away. And at that point, I'm like, what? So I went from excitement to, damn, you mean I didn't make that? And then what happened was, fast forward just a little bit, an opportunity opened up in Latin America. They were looking for somebody who had a technical background, could speak Spanish, and could probably sell. And I was like, I'm in. And that's how I started my sales career. Wow.
You ever think about what you would have done differently? If you didn't start the sales career, would you have stayed?
No. I have no regrets, man. The way my philosophy of life is very simple. You look at where you're at, right? You look at where you're at, and then you ask yourself, am I happy where I'm at? My answer is absolutely. That means I would not change anything because everything formed me, right? You know, you are the sum total of all your thoughts, I think Earl Nightingale said, right? So you are the sum total. If you were to change one thing, that's like the butterfly effect. You never know what could happen, right?
Right.
And so I always just ask myself, are you happy where you're at? If you are, then you wouldn't want to change anything.
Yeah. So now fast forwarding a little bit into, Victor's sales career. A couple of the most dynamic people that you've worked with that had a real impact on you.
People that I worked with, personal people. There was a guy by the name of Jose Santana. Jose Santana was he was like my sales mentor, right?
He just sounds cool. Like
Jose Santana was awesome, and he was from he was Spanish, like Spain Spanish, from Canary Islands, right? La Islas Canarias, and he would talk like Ricardo Montalban with his deep voice. So he would, and I joke about this because he would literally say my name. He would like Victor. And I was like, dude, say that again. That just sounded sexy. You know, he just talked, and he was just like, his voice was beautiful. It had the beautiful accent, you know. Right. And I would travel with Jose. Everywhere we went with Jose, he was treated like a rock star. Now, if you look at Jose, he's an average looking guy. There's nothing great looking about him and nothing bad looking. He's just an average looking guy. Right. But when we go places to visit customers, I would do, again, the four-legged call with him. It was like he was treated like a rock star. And I really started studying what he did. And he just made people feel good. He was honest with people. When he talked about business, he was very honest. Here's what we got. Here's what we're trying to do. He was very honest. But he had all these little things he would do. For example, we're in Miami one time. We're going to go visit a customer. And we stop over by one of these. If you've been in Miami, you know, there's all these nooks and crannies of all these, you know, coffee places where you can get a little cafecito, right? Little coffee, especially the little Cuban ones that come in little, what I call those little ketchup cups, right? And so Jose says, yeah, let's go pick up some coffee, right? And I'm thinking it's for us. He goes, no. And he had like 10 of them, right, in a tray with the little cups, the little hard espressos. He said, okay, you hold this, don't drop them. We got to drive 2 miles, right? We get to the office. And as soon as he walks in, he just starts going around giving everybody that he knows coffee. And, you know, saying good morning, the whole bit. And I'm watching this like, what is this, right? And he's the one that taught me that everybody matters. Everybody in the chain of selling, you're selling into a company, everybody in that chain matters. Didn't matter what their status was. President, all the way down the front line, didn't matter. And that to me was the biggest takeaway from one of the coolest salespeople I've ever met.
That's really cool. That's great. It reminds me of a story with my father. You know, he was in the restaurant business for both my mom and dad for 40 plus years. Wow. And so they had a Mexican restaurant called Margarita's Mexican restaurant. And that
how obvious is that, Crispin? How obvious is
it? I know, right? Margarita.
By the way, I'm not dissing your parents, but there's not a lot of creativity in that one.
No, there sure isn't. No. And
that's so cool though.
I know
40 plus years.
I know. Wow. And he pioneered like the slushy margarita. Like it was before anybody else was doing it. Even Chi-Chi's, like before Chi-Chi's was doing it. If you remember that.
I remember Chi-Chi's. Wow.
Yeah, that chain.
Man, you're throwing that back. I remember Chi-Chi's.
Yeah, he was he was a visionary, my father. Like was delivering pizza before, like delivering pizza to the home. That was like a big deal for one of our restaurants that we owned as well. Cool. And so, you know, we'd have a line wrapped around, you know, the building for Fridays and Saturday nights because there were just people that wanted to get in. And so he would always say, now I'm going to give you a tray of margaritas, and we use those little plastic champagne glasses, you know, the plastic. Yeah. And he would fill those up with slushy margaritas, and you go, okay, take these out to the people that are standing in line, right? And always ask the magic question, which is, what brought you in today?
Isn't that nice? That's nice,
right? And so I would pass out all of these little margarita glasses and ask people, and I'm telling you, Victor, 9 out of 10 times, what brought him in, and this was the answer I got. Oh, we just came to see Chris. That was my father's name, Chris. You know, we just came to see Chris.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
You know, but they didn't talk about the
little things, man. Little things.
They didn't talk about the food. They didn't talk about, you know, the drinks. They came to see my father. You know?
Yeah, I bet you that would be more true today than ever. In a world where we're so digitally connected, I bet you that would be more true than ever.
Yeah,
you know, you probably get 10 out of 10. You know what I mean? The human connection piece is missing. So, you know, I think people would want that even more. But that, I mean, your father understood. You know, Jose understood. It's not the big things, man. It's those little touches that you give along the way.
Those little touches. That's right. That's right. Yeah, so I'm going to, you know, we talk a little bit about process and we talk about, you know, organizational, you know, things on this podcast as well. So I'd like to, you know, kind of ask you a little bit about how do you do it? I mean, author, TV host, speaker, international trainer, mentor, coach, you know, sales guru. I mean, how do you manage it all? How do
Dude,
you, how do you,
I
how
have
do you
no
personally
idea.
manage
I
it?
have no idea. What I consider a blessing is that so we didn't have a lot of money, and I'm not going to do the whole violin story, but we were not not that well off, straight up from the hood, right?
Right.
And so when I look at my life, I couldn't have. You know how you say, "This is what I want to do with my life. This is what I want to be," all that stuff, and you and if God were to come down, and say, "All right, tell me, Victor, what do you want?" And I would sit there, yeah, and I would start writing stuff down. I swear to you, God would look at that list and he'd go, "Is that all? I was going to give you more." Do you know what I mean? That's
Right.
how I feel sometimes because I got more than I expected.
Mm.
And so I'm in bonus rounds right now. Do you know what I mean? I'm in total bonus round.
Awesome.
Like the television show, never expected to get that. Been to places, never expected to go, right? Have
Mm.
done things, all these little things I've just done. And I'm just like, I don't know how else to put it because it's going to sound like arrogant, but I'm just impressed with myself. I mean, because, but I don't mean it like that. Do you know
Oh,
what I
that
mean?
doesn't sound arrogant at all. I don't know what you're
I
talking
know
about.
it sounds wrong, but here's what I mean by you sounded wrong. It's that, some people look at their lives and they go, God, they're full of regrets, this and that,
Mhm.
and I've made mistakes, I've made errors, right? And I had some regrets, but I'm like in the overall sum of things, when the calculus is finally done, I'm like, oh, you've done well, Victor. You know what I mean? If I was talking to myself, like, yeah, you've done well, young Padawan. You know what I mean? It's like everything is worked out. How, I don't know, but I do know one thing, that I've always strived to keep moving forward.
Mm.
Right? When I wrote a book, I know, my favorite phrase, this is like my motivational, like if you slap me out of a dead sleep and say, okay, Victor, what's your one phrase you live by? And it's this one: never aim for perfection, aim for success.
Mm. I love it.
Let me tell you what that means to me, is that I never try to get it perfect. You know what I mean? I aim for it. I try, but I know it's not going to be that, because I know it's not going to be perfect. And I've given myself a way out. I launch things. I put books out there. I do videos. My most popular video, Crispin, is a video I didn't even want to put up there. I wasn't even happy. It was a rant. It's a 15-minute rant called Sales Excellence. And it has like almost 2 million views. I didn't have anything else to put up that week. And it was on my hard drive for like 2 months. I was like, I don't really like this video. We've all been there, right? I don't really like this video. I don't really sound right. I don't like the way I sound. We've all been there, right? And I just screw it. And I just launched it, right? And sure enough, it's the most popular video. Now, there's other videos I've done. I'm like, oh, gold, baby, man. Like acres of diamond. That's it right
This
there.
is gonna be gold, baby.
Yeah, and then wah, 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 wah. You can tell the sound effect right now, Chris. It's just like nothing. It just dies on you, right? And you're like, what happened? That taught me a big lesson over the years, is that you never know what's going to hit. You never know what people like. You're looking at it through your lens, where other people have a totally different view of it. And so I try not to auto-censor myself, when I create material. And believe it or not, just that not auto-censoring yourself allows you to create more and put more stuff into the ether, where everybody is still thinking about it, right?
Yep.
What do you think? I don't like the color. I don't like the design. Just, I don't do that as much. I just launch. And then just like let quick story. The television show I have, Life or Debt, on Spike TV, which is now Paramount, right? How I got that show, I found out after the fact. Now, reverse the tape a little bit. I'm in Minnesota again, not lying. I'm at my father-in-law's house. It's cold. I'm miserable. I don't want to be there. My wife said I had to be there, right? And I did this video conference call with this lady. I'm in a grumpy mood, bad lighting, the whole bit. I'm not, and I remember I was just really terse with this lady, right? We're having like, it's one of those conversations. She posted the video, not me. She decided she loved it. She was like, oh, I love this straight talk, Victor. She posted the video. I was in a crabby mood. That's the video they found online that says, let's call this guy. What?
Wow.
What? That video? The one I was crabby, just being real like, yeah, that's the video we like. I'm like, see what I mean?
Right.
Early on, you asked a question about controlling the customer. You can't. We all have the illusion of control. As soon as you accept that it's an illusion of control, you have no control. By the way, you're good. It's almost like you launch things and you're like, okay, I know if you're launching something with the intent of not hurting, not offending, just trying to help, I'll use your words, trying to serve, you can't go wrong. You know, and you're going to have your critics. 80-20
Yeah.
rule. Let's do it again. 20% of people are not going to like you. 20%
Yeah.
of people watching this right now probably don't like me.
No,
I'm good with that, but that's their problem, not mine.
that's exactly right. And I love, and you know, I use this often. I use this phraseology often too. You know, don't let perfect be the enemy of good.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
just don't do it.
Just do it, man. Just do it.
I-
Like, by
that's
the way,
exactly,
Chris, who's the producer of this show, knows I'm just about launching stuff, you
yeah,
know, and I think, when I work with people like Chris, who's producing the show, he would try to say, well, I mean, how do you want it exactly? I don't know, Chris, just, I don't want to say what I tell him, but I just said, just mix up your way, man.
yeah,
And it's like, yeah, just make it look good. And he's
yeah.
like, all right, because I think it's when this goes to the leadership, right? When you're working with people and you bring them on board, you hire them, and then you tell them what to do, it makes no sense.
That's right.
Right. So when I
Right.
hire Chris to do my podcast, I don't want to tell him exactly what to do. I said, dude, just do your thing, man. Oh,
That's
here's
right.
what I say to him. He's going to laugh, but he'll know what I'm talking. I said, dude, just make it look good. Just give me some MTV shit. And he goes, first time you heard, see what I mean? First time you heard it, he goes, what do you mean some MTV shit? I said, dude, just make because
Make it look cool.
I don't have his creativity. I'm not in his head. I don't have his tools. So therefore, why am I going to try to describe creativity to this man?
That's right.
It's like art, when you see it. So when Chris produces something, I go, well, I kind of like that. Looks a little different. Not what I expected, which is great. And then I
Right.
just launch. So I've learned to let go of
I
trying to
love it.
control the process or being so type A about things.
That's great. That's great. Let people do their job
Yeah.
because they're experts in their field. And that's where we have an opportunity, I have an opportunity in my business as well to just let people focus on their strengths, because if I had that strength, I wouldn't have hired them in the first place.
Yeah.
I surround myself with the people that are a whole hell of a lot smarter than I am, so we can get to the destination of where we're going. Right?
Oh, I agree. By the way, my daughter does a lot of my marketing,
Mhm.
like some of the visuals that you'll see. Well, all the visuals that you'll see now. And we've had debates, and I've had to learn to let go,
Yeah.
because I don't have her mindset,
Right.
and so it's been like, it's hard, right? It's like I've always done all the content production myself, and I just had to let go. And so, for example, that cover on the Mastering the Upsell, it's not
Mhm.
normal. That's my daughter's creation. She was feeling a little Dalian on that one because
Yeah.
everything on that cover represents something,
Yeah.
and it's very creative. So if you study the cover, everything's actually in the book. They're almost like signs of things that are in the book. And I'm like, that's not usual. But she says, we need to create something different so we can just stand out from the rest, to which I was like, great. But hopefully the content carries. But anyway,
I'm
that's
sure.
an example of letting go. By the way, if you look closely, you see two guys with diamonds on their heads.
Mhm.
That's the Acre of Diamonds story.
I love it.
That's
I
what that
love it.
implies. Yeah. So
That's
it's really
great.
cool.
It's
Cool.
really cool.
And by the way, and it's fantastic working with my kids, by the way. It
I
really
bet.
is cool.
I bet. All right. Well, listen, we're gonna close this down with the Sales Arbiter 7, and I kind of invented this or reinvented it from our friend James Lipton from inside the Actors Studio. So I'm going to ask you some questions, and this is the information that our listeners and watchers really wanted to find out about you anyway.
Sure they want this? Are you sure? They want this? All right, go ahead.
All right, you ready?
right.
Okay, sounds good.
And
All
by the
right.
way, I want to tell the audience, you sent me this, and I purposely refused to look at them.
That's great.
I
That's
was like,
perfect.
no, let's just go for it. All right,
Let's go for it. Let's
Hit
do
me.
it.
Hit me.
All right.
I'm scared.
What is your favorite word, Victor?
My favorite word. Oh my God. Shit.
Is that it?
Yeah.
That's
There's
it?
something cathartic about it. Shit. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
you can use it so many different ways.
It's a release. Okay, good. I love it. What is your least favorite word?
Greedy.
Greedy.
I hate greedy. I think because I think people misuse it. When you say a corporation is greedy, you're saying, well, what does that mean? I like to think they're into self-interest. You know what I mean? We use the word greedy wrong. And so I hate that word.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. What is something that could make your day?
Could make my day. My wife laughing.
Hmm.
My wife has the coolest laugh, and she rarely laughs. So when she laughs, I just kind of, oh, that's cool. She laughed.
That's
It
great.
is. Sorry, it's that simple.
That's good. That's good. And what's something that could ruin your day, Victor?
Ruin my day. My wife not laughing. That's an easy one. I think, like everybody else, I really hate being around negative people. I
Mhm,
really hate it. You know what I mean? I
mhm.
don't mind as friends. If you and I were friends, we're pals, we can rant once in a while. Like, oh yeah, everybody rants, right? Just to
Sure.
kind of go like, get it. It's cathartic. What I hate is that constant whining
Mhm,
about what you didn't have. And if I could, can I tell you a quick
mhm.
story? Because this is really,
Please, please.
it really impacted me. So I was working a summer intern at NBC, right? So I was running the 5, 6, and 10 news. I was running one of the cameras. And I remember I always wanted to do the audio part because I wanted to be, back then I had dreams of being a musician and a DJ and all that stuff. And I kept talking about wanting to be an audio, wanting to be an audio, wanting to be an audio, wanting to be an audio. And then one day we're at lunch and this guy by the name of Rob Reinert. I mean, if you could just imagine this, I'm a young kid, man, dude. I'm like 22, not even that. I had to be like
Unbelievable.
20. And I mentioned it again, and he just went off on me, man, loud. He's like, you know what? Enough of this shit. Dot, 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 dot. If you're gonna bleep, 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 drop a button, do it. Other than that, shut up. And everybody in the lunchroom just like that. I felt that small.
Wow.
And I remember later on, I think I did cry actually.
Oh my
No, like, you
goodness.
know what I mean? You just suck it up, and later on, you're like, and I remember I hated that guy. I hated that guy. I wanted to see him burn in hell. I wanted it in Dante's ninth level. I wanted him down there, right? Boiling in blood, the whole bit. And I learned that day, not that day, from that day, I learned that you need to stop talking about what you want to do and just do it.
Just do it.
And I hate people who are always talking about what they want to do. I'm different. I don't do what Rob did to me because that was too painful what he did. But
Mhm.
I lesson learned, right? Lesson
Right,
learned. But I
right.
realized that there's a lot of people who just want to talk every year. It's the same thing. Holidays are coming. I'm going to talk to my family. They're going to talk about the same thing about what they're going to do. I really, really have begun. I resent that. I really don't like that.
Yeah,
Either do it or shut up. I'd rather
that's
you
it.
do it and fail. And I'm like, damn, did you try? Yeah, it didn't go well. What happened? Let's talk about it. Let's kind of analyze it. Let's break it apart, right? That's a
Mhm.
good conversation. I'm not saying, you failed, you suck. I'm not going to say that. I'm like, what would you do differently? What would you do next? How would I want to have
Mhm.
those conversations as opposed to, I'm going to do this. Remember, it's like the Gong Show. I'm going to play my trumpet. I'm going to play it now. And the guy never plays the trumpet.
Right, right,
If
right.
you know the reference, you know the reference. If you
I
don't,
know the reference. Yeah.
okay, good.
That's right. I love it.
Uh,
Okay, so and you kinda answered this already, but what sound or noise do you love?
Besides my wife laughing, I really love I love laughter. I really do. I think that's
Mhm,
why I think I just love laughter. I like when people laugh. I actually love it to hear other people laugh.
mhm.
Do you know what I mean? Just like
Yeah,
that to me is like a snapshot of like genuine humanity. Do you know what I mean? I don't know how to describe it. When I hear people laughing, I'm like, very cool, cool moment. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And the fact that I can hear it, it's even cooler because they're really enjoying it. So
that's right, and
yeah.
it's cross-cultural, I mean, in every culture,
Yeah, it's a
every
beautiful
single
sound.
culture. It's great. Um, what sound or noise do you hate?
Oh man, I think the noise I can't stand is like chalk on a board.
Mhm.
I don't know
Scream.
why. It must have been that trauma from elementary school. But every time I hear like somebody writing with a chalk on a board, I don't know, it brings back all kinds of memories. Just like it gives me I can't stand that noise. So yeah,
Right.
that and what do you call that? It's the foam. Like when you break apart foam.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
why. That sound just
You
drives
break foam apart.
You know what I mean? Like, you ever get
Yeah,
a
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's like, I don't know why, but those two noises really irritate me.
Yeah, for me, it's the tearing of cardboard. I don't know. It's just
Yeah.
that
Oh
I
god,
don't know
that's
why.
gratifying to me, especially
Or a baby crying.
a
That's
baby
too
crying.
much.
Yeah, that's horrifying. Yeah.
Yeah. It's horrifying. Yeah, that's horrifying.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
horrifying.
What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Man, I think I wanna be a DJ, man.
Really?
Yeah, like,
With the
I see
lights and
these
the
I
music?
see these big EDM DJs, I'm like, "Man, I could do this. I could
Yeah.
do this." You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. My son took me to a place, we went to something, it's called Bonnaroo, and it's
Mhm.
like almost like Woodstock for different type of music,
Yeah.
or what is it? Lo What is it? Lo Palooza. What is the the Palooza thing, right? It's something like that. Bonnaroo.
Yeah.
And I remember I got to meet Tiesto, the DJ Tiesto.
Yeah.
And I thought that was cool. But just to hear the music, you know what I mean? It just like gets the crowd just bouncing. I'm like, oh God, I would love to do that job. It would be so much fun.
It was so good. All right. Well, listen, folks, Victor Antonio on the Pipe Podcast today. Thank you so much for attending. It means the world, and had a great time with you over this last hour. And come back anytime, Victor. You're always welcome. And
Cruz, thank you very much, man.
And like I always say, listen, keep selling and have fun doing it. Thank you so much for joining today. Bye-bye now. This is the reason why you should buy. And we're not asking the most important question, the reason why it was important for them, in their heart of hearts. Like, that's a sale. Then we're going to see results, the mindset. Going into every opportunity, saying to yourself, I would love to have the business, but I don't need the business. When they talk about building their organization just through referral, that means they're missing it